Welcome to The Walk. I'm excited to be here again another day recording. Today I have my friend Casey. Casey goes to church with me. I've had a chance to meet him. There's a few years between us, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Casey. So go ahead and tell us about you.
Yeah, I'm Casey, and I have known the Lord for 2.5 years, just about, and I serve at our church. I'm one of the high school leaders, and I just finished 2 years of a Bible college called Forge and Foundry. That is, it's a school ran through our church, and currently praying and fasting about what the Lord has next for me, and that's basically where I'm at right now.
Good. How old are you, Casey?
I'm 20.
Okay.
20, yeah.
All right. And we were just sharing how you actually lived several years just a few blocks away from where I live here.
Yeah.
So, and you were born in Wawa?
I was born in Seattle. Born in Seattle, moved here when I was about 2.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically grew up here, yeah.
And you mentioned your family before we started recording. You were talking about 4 brothers. So tell me about your family.
Yeah, a great family.
Uh-huh.
Very, very blessed to have
That's so good.
Family that I have. Very close with my brothers. Just like regular
Right.
family. Great mom and dad.
Where are you in that group of the 4 brothers?
I'm the middle child.
Okay.
I'm 2 older, 2 younger,
Okay.
and one of the oldest one isn't like blood related to us. He just like lived with us for a really long time. Like we kind of grew up around him, so we just like invited him into our family basically. And but great family.
Right.
Yeah, great brothers, great parents.
5 boys, all boys.
Yeah.
Boy,
My mom had it.
That's a competitive household.
Yes, it was. Still is sometimes.
Right. And so, it sounds like you guys are pretty close.
Yeah.
Do they get to live around here in Wawa?
Yeah, so my oldest one, he lives in Milton Freewater right now. Josh, he just graduated from WSU, and he's at our house right now, but he's moving to Arizona to do some psychology stuff.
Right. But go Cougs before you go to
Cougs,
Arizona.
Go Cougs, of
That's
course.
right.
Of course. Family is all WSU.
Right.
And then there's me and Adam, who is living at home. He's 17, and he's your run-of-the-mill country kid. Loves trucks, loves doing everything. And then Gabe, who's like basically a mini version of me. He just like big sports kid, loves doing all that. And he's 13. Yeah, he's 13. Yeah. And
so talking about, you said a little mini you, because sports is something, I've heard your testimony a couple times, and I would say abbreviated versions, I'm hoping to get a little bit more on it. But sports have played a big part of your life.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, very.
So tell me about that.
I was just grew up with it. My dad was a big sports guy. He never really pressured us into it at all. It was just kind of like loved it since I was a kid. I was always around it, and so I just grew up playing every sport that I could. And then baseball kind of became like the main thing when I like hit high school. I always grew up playing baseball and stuff like that. Colleges started looking at me when I was going into my high school years, stuff like that. So it got very like serious, and I was like, okay, this is like going to be the rest of my life. Early
when you started going to high school,
it was really early on.
That's real talent,
and it was. I mean, I worked super hard at it, and it was like everything in my life. It like consumed all my life, and then, and it was fun, and played all throughout high school and stuff like that. And I signed with. Well, I committed to Oregon State when I was a sophomore in high school, and then decommitted from there, and then signed with Everett so I could go to college for 1 year and then just go into the draft and hopefully play in the major leagues and stuff. And then ended up giving my life to the Lord like sometime during my early senior year, and everything kind of changed. And He told me to do Forge and Foundry instead, go to college, play baseball.
Yeah. So people don't follow sports. Oregon State is a D1 school, which means it's when it comes to collegiate levels, that's the highest level you can play. And then, so then that doesn't. I mean, that's more than just practice. That's you practice really hard, you work really hard, but you also have a lot of naturally God-given ability. To get to that level. Typically, I enjoyed playing basketball. I tried to play hard in basketball, but whenever I played with guys who are D1 level, it was just another level. It was just. I don't think I could practice enough to get to that level. So, tell me about high school when you felt like how you met the Lord and Like, where were you at that point, and then how did you meet the Lord? And it sounds like then that made a significant change in your pathway.
Yeah. Well, I didn't grow up knowing the Lord. My family didn't either. I have a family that believes in God, and I grew up believing in God, but there was no relational aspect to it, and there was no personal between it, and I didn't know that existed. And high school was really hard. I dealt with a lot of like relational issues with people, and didn't have a lot of close people. I didn't have like close like covenant people in my life that I could go to, and I struggled a lot with anxiety and depression. I was super suicidal. It was very like, and my family didn't really know about it. It was a very like scary time like in my life, because baseball was always like my escape, and it became so much that even that didn't help anymore. So I just didn't know what to do. And I kind of had like a last ditch effort at the beginning of my senior year. I was kind of just like, I have nothing else like going for me. So I was like, I remembered in 8th grade, I got invited to Life Church in 8th grade, and I remembered it, and I was like,
this is in senior in high school. You're remembering going back to 8th grade.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, maybe I could just go and see.
Because you need something.
I was like, I needed something.
It's not working out.
Anything. Yeah. Nothing was helping. And I was like, medication wasn't helping, and nothing was working.
Right.
And so I was like, I need to just go somewhere. And so, my mom was like, I asked my mom about it, and she was like, yeah, actually this Sunday they come back from COVID. And she was like, this is the first time they're going to be back in person. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll go.
And she knew because she was going? Or?
No. Okay. She just like looked it up for me.
Okay. Oh,
because I just like asked. I was just like, oh, if like you're going to go Life Church? Because she was like my ride. So I was like, you drop me off. Right. And I just like, I went that Sunday. I sat in the back right corner. Didn't stand for worship.
By yourself?
Yeah, by myself. Wow. Just sat there. If like 4 people introduced themselves to me, I was super confused on why everybody was so nice, and why everybody was smiling, and why everybody was just so excited, like up front, like raising their hands and all this stuff. And it was super foreign to me. Like I was just like, I have no idea what's happening right now. And Ethan Newton, who I went to middle school with him. He was actually the guy that invited me when I was in 8th grade. Okay. And I saw him, and I was like,
were you still kind of connected to him, or not really?
No, not at all. Okay. I hadn't talked to him in years, and he came up to me and he was like, Casey, no way, like you're here. And like I just like introduced myself, or didn't introduce myself, just like said what's up to him, and talked to him for a little bit. And I also saw Isaac Aguilar, who used to hang out with my brother when he was in high school before he knew the Lord. And so he used to come to my house sometimes, so I kind of knew him too. And they just like started inviting me to things, and like sitting with me at church and slowly moving me towards the front of the church, and started making me like stand during worship and stuff. And it was super uncomfortable, and it was super foreign to me, and they just kept inviting me. And then during the 24-hour prayer and worship thing that we do in January, I gave my life to the Lord, and got like radically changed, and just haven't stopped since. Right. And the Lord just ended up telling me, he was like, it was either Forge and Foundry or going to college or baseball, and I was still dedicated to baseball, but I didn't want to lose the community I had, and I knew I wasn't equipped yet to go out into the world, and I didn't have that foundation yet, and I knew I needed it. So the Lord told me to do Forge. That's
so impressive, because a senior in high school, then you go by yourself. I mean, I'm just thinking like God's plan, just like so over your life. I mean, depression and anxiety being terrible and horrible, but he used whatever to get you to sit in the back of the building by yourself. Yeah. From an invitation from like 4 years ago. Yeah. From a guy you weren't even talking to anymore. Yeah. And then you must have found or experienced something that made you say, I'm going to come back next weekend. Yeah. Yeah. It was just, I never felt what I felt, and never saw what I saw. And it just like was like, I had so many questions. What were you seeing? People raising their hands, people smiling, people not, I don't know, like and I didn't know it back then, but when I think about it now, I'm just like, the presence of God was in the room. Sure. And I'd never felt that before, and I just didn't know what it was. But it was attractive. It was attractive. I just wanted it. I just wanted more of it, because I went home feeling a way that I hadn't felt in years. Right. And I was just like, I want whatever that is, whatever they have, whatever that was that I felt, I want more of it. Right. And so I just started going and just kind of kept going. And then my life changed. And so what started to happen with your depression and anxiety as you're going through this process of, it's, maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like, often when we're in Christian circles, we'll say there's a void. Yes. And God starts to fill that void. Yeah. How did you start to see some transformation in the depression, anxiety? Was that?
Yeah.
You want to describe that?
Yeah. Well, I'd say it didn't really. When I was like, it was so interesting to think about, because it was bad when I was at home and I was alone. But when I'd go on a Sunday, it was just kind of like, it's not like it wasn't there anymore, but it was like, I knew it didn't have to be anymore, almost. It was like this really weird thing where it's like when I was around people that loved Jesus, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was around people that really loved Jesus and had a relationship with him, it wasn't even, the depression and all that stuff wasn't even on my mind. And when I gave my life to the Lord that one night, that's when it all, I remember feeling the lifting of like everything. And I had never felt that before. And I was like, anxiety and depression, it was like one moment with the Lord where it all just went gone.
Wow.
It was just gone. And I was just like, I was like, whatever this is, it's real. And I'd never thought that would ever get taken away from me.
Right.
And it was in one moment, in one encounter with Jesus,
right.
It got taken away from me. And
praise God.
It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. Life has changed ever since.
And I mean, wow, I'm just trying to absorb all of this as you're saying it, because you have, on one hand, you have like all these things, these offers that are good, are great, even for godly people, but definitely in the world, it's like, man, those are amazing offers that you have here.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'm thinking about Deuteronomy and Moses saying, I have two choices before you, or that you would choose life. And it almost seems like you were it was either continue with what I'm doing, which looks good on the outside from the world, but I'm like suffering and I'm hurting inside and this is going on, or I can choose life. And it doesn't, and then, we'll go back. I'll ask, because I want to know whether, maybe you do consider going back, trying, maybe that's not, I have no idea where you go from here. But with the level of maturity, and probably also a reflection of just how where you were, the state of where you were, where you recognized, so 17 or 18, you recognize, like, I need to make a choice here. My choice here is, it's life or death, my choice.
Yeah, 100%.
Literally. And so you said, you heard about Fortune Foundry, so you decided to sign up for Fortune Foundry. Yeah. And you put your other plans on hold. What did your family respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, even like as you were saying, from the outside looking in, I had a fantastic life. Right. From the outside looking in, I had everything. I was going to go make a lot of money. I had like friends. I had a great family, all this stuff. And it was funny. People were nagging on me about Forge. Like the people that were in Forge currently were like, you should do it. I was like, no way, and stuff. And I remember when I first brought it up to my mom, she was not happy at all, because it was like, and rightfully so. And I like got it because I'd just recently given my life to Jesus. She didn't know the Lord, and so she was like, "You worked your entire life for this, right? You worked your entire life for it. I paid for all of it, like basically, and it was like everything, my entire life." And she supported me through all of it. It's
a team effort in many ways. Yeah, yes. You've all worked for this.
Yeah, and she was really not happy about it, and was telling me basically that I was making a huge mistake, and that I was. She thought the church was forcing me into it, and she thought I was being forced into it, and I didn't know, because I was so new to knowing Jesus. I didn't know how to tell her what had happened, except that I was like everything changed. And then my dad, who was like the supporter of baseball my entire life, when he found out, he was just confused, and he was like, I don't get it. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you screwing up your life? I don't agree with this. Like, and then I had grandparents, I had uncles texting me, I had aunts texting me, like, what are you doing? Like, are you throwing in the towel with baseball? Are you throwing out all this stuff? And I'm like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. I remember telling my grandpa, he was like, God gifted you. He was like, if you really like are following God, stuff like that, he gifted you with the talents you have. And I was like, I know. Right. That's great, but he's better than it. I'm like, the talents I have are awesome, and I'm really, really glad that God gifted me with them for the time that I had them. But I was like, something way better found me than something way better than my talents found me, and I didn't know how to explain to them the life that I get to live and stuff. But they were not happy about it, not supportive with it. But then 2 years later, they see the fruit of it, and now Sorry, it gets me emotional.
No, that's a good.
My mom, like,
it's real. That's real life.
Yeah, like my mom and my dad, like, I've had conversations with my mom, and she's like, she sees the community I have. She still doesn't know Jesus, but she sees the community I have. She sees the fruit of my life and the joy I have and the incredible life I get to live. And she's grateful that I did it. And my dad's grateful that I did it. And a lot of my family still doesn't understand it, but a lot of the people that were very against it at the beginning are very grateful that I did it. And so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Not only does it change your life, you're a living testimony to your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see kind of that turnaround, it is hard. I was talking earlier with Josh Savard, another young guy that you know, and it's hard to argue against fruit.
Yeah, it's true.
When you see the results, it's really hard to argue against the method and the process.
Yeah.
When you see the fruit, is baseball done?
I don't know. It's one of the things I'm actually praying and fasting for right now is if the Lord wants me to go back and do it. I personally don't think he does, but I don't want to close the door on it just because I feel like that. So I just want to see what the Lord has to say about it because I know there's a lot of people that need to be reached in that area. And if that's me going back into it, then I'd gladly do it if the Lord told me to.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's excellent. I love that just a statement of obedience that you have there and just listening to God's will. So, just to those who don't know what Forge and Foundry is, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but it's a 2-year, well, 1 or 2 year, But you've done 2 years discipleship program, which is it's a college, it's a Bible college that you're going to.
Yeah.
Very intense. So it's more than just book learning.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to demean it by calling it Bible college.
Yeah.
Because it is, I want to paint the picture for what it is, but also because I've had a chance to see individuals who've gone through it. It's more than we take a bunch of theology classes.
Yeah.
It's about a life experience. It's a discipleship program. Yeah. And so it's 2 full-time years. I mean, so this is a huge commitment and huge experience. And so I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. I grew up knowing the Lord the whole time, always loved God.
Yeah.
And we have schools, we have SDA elementaries, high schools, and colleges, universities, medical schools. I mean, it's just the whole process we have there available. But I hadn't seen or haven't felt, and then maybe this is just my experience. I'm not trying to dog anyone or badmouth anyone. I'm just saying I haven't seen this kind of focus on the relationship and the discipleship part. More, I've seen the textbook part.
Yeah.
But the relationship and how it affects my life has been an interesting thing. And from an outside perspective and seeing guys that go through Forge, I'm like, what a great concept to think. Because I think a lot of guys see the church and excited and therefore feel like, I'm being called to ministry. Mm-hmm. But ministry isn't always being in front of an audience, isn't always pulpit. It can be various different things. But what an amazing approach is, hey, before I go out there and take on the world, I'm going to try to focus and kind of like hone in on my relationship with Christ.
Yes, yeah.
So that wherever I go, wherever he puts me in, I'm spreading that light.
Yeah.
That he gave me. And as I encounter culture, which is counter Christ, and it's going against the flow. Mm-hmm. It's like a boot camp for Christians before they go out there to kind of hit the world. I don't know if anything what I'm saying makes sense or not.
Oh yeah.
And so when you talk about sports, that's why I asked, just because. Yeah, your skills haven't gone away. I mean, I'm sure. Are you practicing still? Are you doing any kind of structured exercise program to maintain, or not really?
Not really structured. I just every once in a while I'll still I need to get back into working out for sure. But which is how busy I was with school and everything. I didn't really have a lot of time. But yeah, I still go hit baseballs. I still will play catch with my little brothers or like stuff like that. But nothing like crazy.
Sure,
like I used to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just thinking of the ability of God to use her voice in any arena. Mm-hmm. And obviously, it's individuals that make it to major sports definitely do have quite a voice and quite a platform. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm influencing anything. I'm not. I'm just thinking out loud, and I do that a lot.
It's true. Yeah.
It's just amazing. What other things run through your head?
With baseball and stuff specifically, or just
If it's not baseball, do you have anything else that kind of runs through your head?
Yeah, no, yeah. It's cool because I'm 20 years old. I just did 2 years of a Bible college, have this great foundation with Jesus, and it's like I can do anything now.
Right.
It feels I'm like I don't know what the Lord has for me specifically, but it could be anything.
Right.
And because I'm so young and I can just like have like this great opportunity. And so I'm also praying about if he wants me to do Portland Bible College online.
Okay.
Maybe because it just continue my education in that. And, another thing that I've been praying and fasting about, cause it was just a thought I had and it kind of just stuck with me, was going to school for 2 years to do dental hygiene stuff.
Okay.
And because I'd have a very flexible work schedule and I'd still be able to do ministry because I want to do ministry the rest of my life in whatever capacity it is.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you to define what capacity you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, whatever it is. And it's cool. And I think that's one of the cool things about Forge and with the foundation I have is I'm like, I feel confident in any area that I get placed in by God. Because I'm just like, as you talked about, how ministry is basically whatever we're doing. And it's cool, the different realms of influence that he kind of gives you in whatever capacity it is. And so, those are the three main things I'm like praying about right now. And my ears are open, though, to anything else that he might want to say or anything else that I'm probably not even thinking about that he want me to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about a couple of things when we were talking. One was just this week at LYC, Destin was talking about worship. Yeah. And worship being more than just music and what we do, but also just how we live our lives and how we can worship God in everything that I do. Yeah. How I'm mowing my lawn out there when I'm interacting with my neighbors or for me in my career, I know I very, very much was put there by God. There's a level of peace and comfort where I'm like, man, like he actually designed me to do, he gave me the skills that I needed to do this. When I didn't see it, I didn't have the confidence to think I would be doing what I'm doing now. But he gave me that and my personality. I'm like, oh, it kind of, then I makes it on hard days a little easier to face them. Yeah. When you know you're standing where he's wanting you to be. Yeah. And one of the things that's coming across very clearly as you and I are talking is just you're willing to say, look, I'm not sure exactly what God's plan is for me. Yeah. But I'm good with it. Yeah. And that's huge. That's like a huge step of faith because it's the unknown. You have no idea. Yeah. But to have that relationship with him where you know, like, but I know his plan is so good and his way is so good that what he tells me to do, I'm going to go ahead and go that direction because that's going to be better for me at the end. It's true, yeah. And from an older guy, he's done it tons in my life, and I know that perspective like will not fail you. Right. Yeah. Like God just won't fail you. Yeah. And you will look back and you will be like, man, this is way richer than anything else I could have ever chosen. Way more rewarding. Yeah. And for the kingdom. Can we talk about your parents? Sure. Okay. You talked about your parents being divorced, being split? Yes. Okay. How old were you when that happened? I think I was 8th grade going into my freshman year of high school. Okay. Yeah. Was that pretty hard? Yeah, it was kind of what started the kind of everything that going downhill. It was kind of the start of all of it. Sure. Yeah. And then when we were talking also about, you did Friends with a quote. Yeah. And I think it's because for at least what I read into that was, because we have people around us who we believe are friends because they're around us. Yes. Until like adversity hits or things hit, and then you realize, like, oh, I'm standing alone. Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're not there. I'm facing this by myself. Yeah. And when you are talking about following God's direction and following God's will, one of the things that stood out to me in when I asked you to do this, so the way I end up asking someone to do an interview, it's not because I sit around and try to be like, who do I think would be a great story and who would be. Yeah. I'm not a producer type person like that at all. Again, I feel that this is God's project, so I pray and I just felt like impressed that I should ask you. Yeah. And I had spoken to you at men's camp either last year or the one before. I don't know why. I just felt impressed. I got to say, I genuinely see leadership in you. There's something about you that I see, like man, God has amazing plans, and I don't have no idea what they are, and I'm not. But I see that in you, that He's given you amazing gifts and talents, and then your willingness to use it for Him, which is an amazing combination when you have both. Some people have the gift, but they never are willing to use it. But I asked you, and they were like, it seemed like there was like no hesitation. You were like, okay,
yeah,
and you just went forward with it. And in my experience of having done now 12 episodes, I see you all over the place.
Yeah,
there's usually a little hesitancy sometimes about people talking about it, but I was very impressed by your. It didn't seem like you stalled at all, really.
Yeah,
and I even had to change the date a couple times. You're like, all right, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
but why did you say yes, and what motivated you to want to do this?
That's a great question. Yeah, first of all, I've always admired you a ton, and I've saw it as an opportunity to kind of get to know you and sit and talk with you, and I thought that'd be really fun, and to get to know you a little bit more, and just have conversation with you and stuff, because I saw your testimony at men's camp 2 years ago about what happened in your life, and I was super like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, and it's like I want to get to know that guy. So I just thought part of it was like just a really cool opportunity to talk to you, and I think I have a really big heart to see people to reach people and to see people know Jesus, and whatever capacity that's in, whether it's having a conversation downtown or on a podcast or just at a hangout or something like that. I want the opportunity to do it, because I think it's important to take every opportunity that God gives you to share Jesus, whether anybody's around or anybody's not. I think it's important to take every single opportunity, and I just love talking about Him and talking about my thoughts about the Lord and what He's done in my life. And so I was just really excited to do it. It was just a big honor to be thought of for it, and to get the opportunity to maybe, whether it reaches a ton of people or it speaks to one person, that soul is worth it. Right. And so I just thought it was a great opportunity. Part
of this interview I said, come up with some verses that you felt that maybe played an important role for you in your life. And you said you came up with 2, which I laugh because right now it's about 50-50.
Yeah.
Half of the people do show up with 2. And I think it's great. It just says a lot about just the Bible and the Word, and also just relationship with God, how it's like, well, He's given me, I got 2 good things. So tell me about the verses that you felt that have played a big role in your life.
Yeah, well, it was so hard to choose. Like, honestly, I was just like, there's so many that have really shaped and formed the way that I know and love Jesus, and the way that I even treat people, and the way that I just live my life in general. But the first one that has really changed my life, at kind of halfway through my walk with the Lord, kind of, was Acts 13:22, and it's talking about David. And it says, "And when He had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king, to whom also He gave their testimony, and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, which shall fulfill all my will." And it's like God talking about how David was a man after His own heart. And I think it was really challenging for me when I first came to know the Lord not to be religious in my thinking and to be religious in my action towards the Lord, and be super rules-based, because I'm just naturally really hard on myself. And I remember when I first heard that verse of God calling David a man after His own heart, I was like, okay, that's a guy from the Old Testament that was under the law. He was under those rules. And he was called a man after God's own heart. And I think it made God really personal for me, and made me ask the question to myself. I'm like, when God looks down at all of humanity, when He looks at earth, when He stops at me, what do I want Him to say about me? That's good. Like, if He said that about David, what do I want Him to say about me? And I would hope one of the things that He says about me is that I was a man after His heart.
Amen.
And that I sought Him, and that I just wanted to be with Him. And so that verse really, it's something I still think about. I still think about today. It's one of those prayers I pray daily, is that I'd be a man after God's own heart. And so that one really impacted me. And the second one is John 14, 12 through 14, and it says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I'm going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask for in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it." And I think this verse can kind of get misconstrued, and whereas people see God as like this vending machine where they can ask for whatever they want and like just get it and get it and get it. And this verse really impacted me a lot, because I think I can take for granted knowing Jesus and following Him, and like just how incredible it really can be. And it says, like, And when it says, whoever believes in me, they will do the works I've been doing, and they will do even greater things than me. And that's Jesus saying that we will do even greater things than he did. And it's like the most like mind-blowing thing, because I'm like, how often do I take for granted who lives in me and like who I get to follow and do life with every single day? And we talk about this in Forge a few times, and it was one of the most, I remind myself of it all the time, one of the most convicting and like amazing things is like when we go to heaven and we see all those dudes from the Old Testament, like Abraham and Noah and David, stuff like that. And I was like, what was it like to see God part the Red Sea and to like smite a mountain and like do all this crazy stuff? And they're like, it was really, really cool. What was it like to have him with you all the time?
Right.
Like every single day, all the time, no matter where you went? What was it like? And I'm like, I don't want to stand in front of them and be like, shoot, I really didn't take advantage of that.
Right.
I really didn't love that. I really didn't pursue that. I really didn't like live that life of understanding that he was walking with me all the time. So it was like a really impactful verse for me, because it reminds me who God is and who I have with me all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you do to try to, and not in a religious spirit, but what do you do to try to have that kind of daily check, and to have that your heart, that he could say that, yeah, he has the heart of God. And then also then on this next verse, that you are walking with him daily, that you are experiencing that maybe when people sit around, it's not parting the Red Sea story, but you have your own stories of walking with him on a daily basis. You're not just an observant. You're one of the players. Yeah. Yeah. What do you do currently?
I mean, it's a very daily thing. Wanting to be a man after God's own heart, I think, is one of the most, it's one of the most beautiful scriptures, and it's one of the most beautiful things, knowing that he's that close. And I think what the challenge was, and something I have to do daily, is not strive in my time with him. And I feel like sometimes I will feel like I have to say the right things and like worship really hard and stuff like that, but reminding myself that he'll never be closer than he is right now, and that I get to be with him, and my worship isn't needed, it's wanted, and that I don't need to strive or do anything. And then when you stop doing that, and I think this is something the Lord's been teaching me just even the past couple of months, is just how to enjoy him. And I think that's where just like David or even like what David talks about, how he like was mocked for how he worshiped God, and he was like, I'll get even more undignified than I am right now. I'll do it even more undignified. And I'm like, that's the guy I want to be. Like I don't want to be somebody who strives. I just want to be somebody who enjoys being with God. And I think from that stems running after his heart and being close with him. And the other one, like recognizing that he's with me all the time, and that is like with me all the time, is I think obedience has been big, because I think it was one of the things, it's so crazy, because it's one of the things that my heart like is burdened for a lot, is that people would understand not only like, yes, God is with you and stuff like that, but your life is supposed to be exciting. And it's like that scripture where it says, I came so that they could live life and live it to the full. And I wrestle with it all the time, because I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to live life to the full, and how do you do that? And it's one of the things the Lord's been speaking to me over the past couple of weeks, is like, he told me literally this 2 mornings ago. He said, if you were always obedient, you would never be bored. And I was just like, it's true. Like, I'm not bored. I'm just disobedient. I'm just not being obedient to the voice of God. And it's like, your life is supposed to be exciting, and it's supposed to be full, and it's supposed to not being like live trying to do all these things for God, but live life with him. He's with you all the time. Just do it with him. And it's like the most exciting, like fulfilling life. Like, yes, there's hard times, and yes, it's really, really hard, but in the midst of it, he's still with you. It's still exciting. It's still like, he's still speaking to you. And yeah, so I think obedience, it's like the verse where he says, I require obedience over sacrifice. And I think obedience has been the big changer for me, because I realize the more I'm obedient, the more I realize how much God is speaking.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh shoot, like he's asking me to do this all the time. Like, it's not just, oh, one day at work I prayed for somebody. I'm like, he wants me to pray for people all the time. And so I think obedience has been the big factor in recognizing that he's with me all the time. Yeah.
It almost feels like, at least for me, I think like sometimes, like obedience opens the door so he can talk to me more. Yeah. Because then it's like, okay, he's Josh will do what I ask him to. And so I can give him a little bit more.
Yeah.
And often we want the big leaps and bounds, right? We want that big moment.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got to obey the little things, just a little.
It's
like
true.
you said, praying someone at work, it may seem like, hey, this just sounds awkward. Why would I approach them and just pray? But I have no idea.
Yeah.
And more often than not, every now you get a feedback sometimes, and you're like, wow. Like, that was God-led. That was something that I had no idea. You were just stepping out in faith and obedience.
Yeah.
I was talking this morning with a friend about Peter and the boat and walking on water. Mm-hmm. And one, just I love the spirit to say, hey, can I walk in the water with you? Just the boldness to say that.
Yeah, it's true.
Because my personality probably would not be asking that because
true.
I'm like, oh, okay, God, I'll be humble. But his personality was like, hey, can I walk in the water with you?
Yeah.
And then he did it. And then like to actually do that. And so it's
true.
A lot of times we focus on him when he looked away, he sank. But he walked on water before he sank, though. He actually stepped, he literally took 1 foot out of the boat, stepped on water, and did it. And the obedience and just how, as we're obedient, God honors that and continues to open doors and put you in places. And suddenly, and again, you see opportunities. Even in the middle of adversity, you see the opportunities. Yeah. It's interesting when I before I do these, I pray typically, and I'm asking the Holy Spirit to guide us because it's not something that I'm wanting. Again, I don't want to have an agenda. Yeah. I want something that God's leading. Yeah. That He's like. And typically in these podcasts, it's very much the other person sharing their experience, and I'll ask some questions again to guide the conversation. Yeah. That way. I'm just going to be obedient, and I'm going to follow. Yeah. And I don't know why, but I'm just going to be obedient, so I just follow. So, following up on my thought that I mentioned to you about why at men's camp a couple of years ago I approached it, I just felt like I should speak that about leadership for you. Mm-hmm. For my life, a lot of times it feels like the devil will try to discourage me, because if he can discourage me, he can try to steal my worship. That's true. And not just, I'm talking about just my life as a whole, not just even songs. Yeah. But through adversity, I have found that the power of praising and worshiping in it, and I joke around saying, well, I'm just going to worship harder. And so you want to push me away, but I can actually praise him and worship him even harder, and how through that obedience, when you continue to step out, just God continues to open doors for you. Yeah. And things get bigger and bigger, and eventually you find out, you're like, wow, like, how did I get here? Yeah. And it was really just small decisions over and over and over, putting yourself in his will. Yeah. And then you find yourself, he put you somewhere where you never had even perceived being there, and it's greater than you had ever planned. You're one of the guys that gets a daily text from me, so I apologize for that if it's annoying, but you get a text from me. No, it's awesome. And I've been in Ecclesiastes, and I moved on. I'm now in Songs of Songs, but I had to go back to Ecclesiastes 12 because you're at 20, and I felt I felt I should read this for you, so I'm actually going to just read it out loud. Remember the Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come and the years approach you, when you will say, I find no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars grow dark, and the clouds return after the rain. When the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men stoop, when the grinders cease because they are few, and those looking through the windows grow dim, when the doors to the street are closed, and the sound of grinding fades, when people rise up at the sound of birds, but all their songs grow faint, when people are afraid of heights and of dangers in the streets, when the almond tree blossoms and the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire no longer is stirred, then people go to their eternal home, and mourners go about the streets. Remember him before the silver cord is severed, the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring, and the wheel broken at the well, and the dust returns to the ground and it came where it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. And I'm going to skip here to verse 13. Now all of this has been heard, and here's the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. I love that, duty. Mm-hmm. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including everything hidden, whether good or evil. Yeah. I had to look up what silver tether mean, and I guess it's an analogy of separation between the soul and the body. So all these are referring to death.
Yeah.
And so so here you are. You just completed this 2-year discipleship Bible college, and like you're literally obeying what this is saying. We're saying like bringing me your youth like before you get old, and just giving it to God. And then how he says, it's a duty of mankind.
Yeah.
And one of the themes in Ecclesiastes is meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Yeah. Which you could look at it in a very depressing way, because the wise and the fool, they both die, and they both go to the dust. But if we live lives that are outside of just us, which is what I love that you get, and that's very clear. If we live lives for His purpose, now we're talking about legacy, and we're living lives way beyond when my dust. True. When our dust is gone.
True.
It carries on, and it's kingdom type stuff. So I don't know why I'm sharing that with you, except for I felt I should.
No, thank you.
So I hope that's encouraging to you.
Yeah, of course.
In your process, I'll be praying for you as you're fasting and praying and listening to whatever God it is wanting for your life. And I'm excited to see the follow-up as far as where He continues to lead you to and guide you to.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or anything else you wanted to share?
No, not specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing, your being candid, being open, sharing about your testimony, sharing about what God is doing in your life, just sharing about your obedience and actually doing it. And not just sharing, but actually living your obedience. And thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. It's a really big honor to be asked, and a big honor that the Lord would put that on your heart and stuff. So it's really been fun. Yeah.
That's God. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, and God bless you, and God bless the audience. And if you feel that these podcasts are encouraging, then feel free to share. This is just a ministry, so hopefully someone out there can be encouraged and edified. We wish you the best. So God bless you.